Going for two, kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two, sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this, multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo! This is the Armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo! This is the Armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to episode 201 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I am your host, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. We are live every Wednesday night on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch, syndicated in all major podcast networks, and streaming in the Going For Two app for iOS and Android. If you are on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button for us. It helps us out. And as always, I'm here with my co-host tonight, Mr. Ryan Searfoss. Ryan, what's up, man?
Not too much. Ready to hop in some ADP, and we got the draft right around the corner, man.
Yes, sir.
Starting to get exciting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're actually going to have to go by Foss tonight because our next guest is also Ryan, and of course the guest takes precedence. Of course, he needs no intro, but Mr. Ryan McDowell, co-owner of the DynastyFantasyFootball.com and co-host of Locked On Dynasty, as well as the DLF Dynasty podcast. What's up, Ryan?
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me on again.
Definitely, man. Definitely. So I think last time we had you on, it was right after you got back from the combine. A little bit different this year. Right. A little bit different this year. No combine. How has that sort of affected your strategies as far as your research and such?
Yeah, definitely missed that. Last year was the first year I got a chance to go, and was certainly looking forward to doing that again, meeting up with a lot of people in the industry and trying to learn about that draft class. But it'll have to wait until next year. Hopefully, of course, hopefully everything's back to normal. We'll see in a few months. But I don't think the lack of a combine has affected my process as much. Honestly, just the entire college football season, just being so different. I mean, players opting out, teams getting in, sometimes half the games that they normally would, and in conference games only for most teams. A lot of those smaller school prospects didn't get the chance to show off against the Power 5 guys. So really for me, it was more of how the college football season affected I think what we know about these players rather than the combine.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I'm not a huge college football fan, so I don't watch a lot until after the season. So the fact that there was a lot less tape to watch, a lot less games to watch, you're having to go back and watch, from 2019, it made it a little bit more difficult for trying to find some of these guys. But there's guys out there that do this pretty much all the time that I kind of lean on a little bit to get some of my opinions and stuff like that. So definitely different this year for sure. So real quick, Ryan, before we get into some of this stuff here, if for those people that don't know who you are, give us kind of a rundown of your fantasy history, your career, and what you do in the fantasy space.
Sure. Cover almost exclusively Dynasty Fantasy Football. Started with DLF, Dynasty League Football, back in 2012. So we're getting close to 10 years now, I guess. Kind of worked my way up there, and as of a couple years ago, became one of the owners over there at DLF. So have been glad to stick around with those guys for the long haul and plan to keep doing that. Also have done some work for Roto World and 4for4 and a few other sites, and then have several podcasts right now. 3 podcasts. You mentioned a couple of them: DLF Dynasty podcast and Locked On. Along with Commission Impossible with Scott Fish. I think you guys had Scott on last week.
Yep, we did. Yep. All right, yeah, good stuff, man. Good stuff. You put out a ton of good content, man. You're one of my favorite people to follow on Twitter for sure. All right, we got a jam-packed show tonight. Let's just jump into a quick news and notes.
News and notes from around the league.
News and notes, as always, brought to you by the Dynasty Trade Calculator. Everybody hates bad trade offers, right? No one wants to be that guy. Never make a bad trade offer again with the Dynasty Trade Calculator. Visit goingfor2.com/DTC to sign up for $15 a year. That's right. All you do is go to goingfor2.com/DTC and get the best trade calculator on the market for only $15 a year. Stop guessing, start calculating. Not a ton of news as usual this time of year. It's mostly about the draft stuff, but we've covered the draft at nausea. So only two notes here that I wanted to talk about real quick. We'll go to you, Foss. Julian Edelman retires. No real big fancy impact here necessarily, but the big question that I've seen all over Twitter, I just want to get both of your opinions here. Is Edelman a Hall of Famer?
No. He's the Hall of Good. He was very great in the playoffs. He has an awesome story. He's probably going to have a movie on Disney Plus come out one day. But he's really got the Hall of Fame for the guys who are transcendent to the sport. And we have people like Torrey Holt who haven't been in, and Reggie Wayne who aren't in yet. There's a long list of receivers he has to pass up. He's not one of the guys who's changed sports or one of the best ever season in, season out. He had huge moments, and he's going to be remembered. He's just not that forward.
Fair enough. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I'm actually kind of interested. We'll have to wait a little bit longer, and in Edelman's case, I guess we'll have to wait several years now. But when these guys do come along, specifically Edelman, and I think we could throw Wes Welker in there as well. Is the fact that they played with Tom Brady kind of held against them? Is it just a matter of they were only good because of Brady, essentially? So we'll see how those two are looked at when it comes to the Hall of Fame. But I don't think Edelman is. I don't think either one really is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I'll tell you what, that he was, for fantasy wise, he was the first true PPR guy when it got big everywhere. I feel like he was the PPR guy.
Yeah. Right
when it got really hot and the norm.
Yeah, he definitely. I mean, he was one of those guys for sure that it was pretty much all PPR for him. I think it was as many touchdowns as some of these other guys, but yeah, it was definitely a lot of PPR for him. And I agree too. I don't think he's Hall of Fame. I think he had an excellent playoff career, but some of that comes down just to the fact that he was always in the playoffs. He's one of the best players on that team during those times, but at the same time, they were just always in the playoffs. So it's easy to put those numbers up when you're in the playoffs constantly. The only other note I had here is James Conner to Arizona. I know a lot of those Chase Edmonds truthers kind of groaned a little bit when he went there. But what do you think, Ryan, on this James Conner to Arizona? Are you buying James Conner at all, and do you think anything is going to happen with Chase Edmonds?
No, I'm not buying James Conner at all. I think this is I'm a Chase Edmonds fan, and I think this is great news. They clearly had to bring in someone, whether it's one of these veteran backs or if they spend a day 2 pick on someone. And I think signing James Conner is a lot better for Chase Edmonds' outlook than drafting Javonte Williams in the second round or something like that. I'm just still not trusting Conner to stay healthy, and if I've got Chase Edmonds, I'm pretty happy today.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think Edmonds is one of those guys that can do more with less. I think if you give him too much to do, he can come with injuries. Whereas if you give him limited touches, just enough to have enough value and be that secondary guy. And then again, like you mentioned, James Conner can't stay healthy. What are your thoughts, Ryan, on this move? Or Foss?
Yeah, I agree with him. I was excited when I saw it because it means they're not going to draft somebody. They have 5 draft picks. So they pick 16, 49, and 160. So picking a running back's not really the smart move anyway. So it fills in a hole. It makes you feel more confident starting them. And their roles are completely different. This is a team that's trying to have a lot of points, probably going to be in a lot of shootouts. He's the passing down back. His role's there. I don't think Connor's going to hurt that. And I think regardless, he was the running back who was going to be in split carries. And we don't see guys with more than 40% most of the time anyways, the market share. So I'm okay with it. I'd rather that than see Javonte Williams there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I buy that for sure. All right, let's get into some ADP here. So Ryan, just recently on your Twitter accounts, I went through and I saw some April updated ADP for DLF. You tweeted out the top 5 from each position. We'll take a look at those top 5 and some of the things that I thought maybe a little bit surprising. I want to get your thoughts on them as well. So we'll start here at the top with the quarterbacks. The top 5 in the April DLF ADP were Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Herbert, and then Dak Prescott at number 5. And the one I wanted to ask about right at the top here, Ryan, are you surprised that Lamar Jackson, who was last year, he was kind of that, 1A, 1B with Mahomes, he's out of the top 5 completely now. Is that surprising to you, Ryan?
Not really. I kind of do this every month where I share some of this ADP, and it feels like every month since the off season began, I've gotten similar responses on Twitter. How is Lamar Jackson still in the top 5? Where's Dak? And, eventually that mindset kind of has taken over here. And, to be fair, Dak is the quarterback 5. Lamar Jackson's the quarterback 6, according to our data. And their ADP is basically less than 1 point away. Dak is an ADP of 76. And Lamar Jackson 76.7. So, wow. I mean, that's how close it is. And, we break things down like this as far as top 5s or top 10s or QB1s, looking at 12 guys. But really, we know that's pretty arbitrary. When you look at the tiers, we can drop down to quarterback 6 with Lamar and then a little bit further, Russell Wilson down there. So, yeah, after the year he had, I think there was a lot of frustration and disappointment. And of course, we saw the Allen and the Herbert breakout. We saw Dak get off to an amazing start prior to that injury and then stick in Dallas. So it seems like good news for him and really for all those guys. So not surprising. So, somebody has to be 6 out of that group.
Yeah, that's a good call. And the fact that Lamar Jackson is that close to Prescott, you could do this, today and have a different number. And maybe Lamar Jackson's number 5 now. So I agree. Ryan, I know you're a big Lamar Jackson guy. Are you buying his ADP? I mean, sorry, I keep saying Ryan Foss. I'm going to have to get used to that.
Yeah,
we got two Ryans on tonight.
No problem.
Yeah, I'm a Lamar Jackson guy, but I'm not upset about it. A lot of it comes down to surrounding cast, scheme. These guys Dak Prescott has possibly the best offense in the league around him. And if they get Kyle Pitts, which is the huge rumor now, he jumps. I have no problem with that. Justin Herbert's just the new hotness at the position. And sky's the limit. And Allen Mahomes, I have no problem with that. Obviously, don't have any problem with that. So Jackson 6 is fine with me.
Yeah,
I'll take, and I think I like him at that ADP anyways.
Yeah,
so I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I think you can get him a little bit cheaper there because people are down on him a little bit, but he's still
I want to be mad, but I can't.
Yeah, exactly.
I just can't.
Yeah, you got that Raven stuff in the background there, but when it comes down, you put your fantasy hat on it.
I got the draft day hat. So
yeah,
cool.
Nice. All right, Foss, I'm gonna go back to you on this one too. With Justin Herbert, you mentioned the new hotness. Any worry of a sophomore slump? Now that we have all that the cliche talk with the coaches now have tape on him, they can study him and sort of shut down what he does. Any worry about that if you're an owner of Herbert or drafting Herbert in a startup?
Not really. As long as the team makes the right moves and keeps building around them, addresses the surrounding cast, gets him possibly another weapon, especially at the tight end position. As long as they do that, I'm not worried about it. If they don't make the right moves in the draft and don't get him any more weapons, maybe a little bit, but I think it's an arbitrary thing. And we could see other guys catch up to that level, but I don't see him really dropping off or be upset about it or worried about it.
Yeah, he had an amazing rookie season. Record-breaking rookie season. So I do think, even if there is some little bit of regression, I do think he's still a top 5 quarterback.
I'd be nervous about him drafting him as my 4th quarterback, but I'm not against it.
Yeah,
and I agree with it.
What are your thoughts, Ryan, on Herbert? Any trepidations there with Herbert?
No, not really. He had a ton of volume through the 4th most pass attempts in the league, and as we know, he did not start week 1, so in just 15 games had close to 600 pass attempts. Even with the Eckler injury last year, if we're assuming he's healthy all year, I kind of expect that type of volume to continue. So really no concerns. I think they'll add a wide receiver in the first couple of days of the draft. Mike Williams, probably in his last year with that team. So if they're upgrading the pass catching core as well, then I think Herbert can hang around in this top 5 range.
Yeah, I'm with y'all as well. I think Herbert's the real deal. I mean, he was amazing last year. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think 300-yard games. I think he broke a record for rookies. He broke the touchdown record. I mean, he was awesome last year. So I don't think that even with some regression that he falls out of that top 5.
I mean, you put Russ in there with that grouping, it's not really that big of a worry.
Yeah, agreed.
And I mean, if Watson plays, that's different, but we don't know what to do with him, so he's not really in the conversation. But that's really the only guys who I think could really jump him.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Ryan, this one goes to you specifically. Any of the rookie QBs, did Trevor Lawrence crack the top 12? Just curious on that one.
Yeah, he did. So Lawrence was the QB9 according to our April DLF ADP, and he's been in that top 12, that QB1 range, really the whole time since February when rookies were first included in the ADP. So I think you look who's ahead of him right now. Deshaun Watson directly ahead of him, 88 and 89 overall in ADP. So this ADP, this data is not perfect. We don't pretend that it is. I would easily take Trevor Lawrence over Deshaun Watson right now, whether you're talking a trade or a draft, a startup draft. So, you can look at this every month, really, no matter where you're pulling your ADP from, and kind of raise your eyebrow at some of these, and that's definitely one of them. I would personally push Watson further down, and I would push Lawrence further up. I'd have him ahead of Russell Wilson as well. So he would probably be in my QB7 spot right now.
Nice. Yeah, I was just going to say.
And then,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to throw in Justin Fields, also in that QB1 range, quarterback 12 overall.
Oh,
nice.
Where's Burrow in that group? Is he
10?
He's
10.
10.
So he's right behind Lawrence. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, I was just going to say with your thing on Deshaun Watson, it's these ADPs are done with mock drafts. People, they're not drafting their real team. I think if they were drafting their real team, that they may have a little bit more trepidation taking Deshaun Watson, whereas in a mock draft, you have no liability to keep him for the rest of the time. It's just a mock draft, so I think that has something to do with it as well. All right, let's go look at some of these running backs here. The running backs that you tweeted out that were top 5, Christian McCaffrey at the top, Jonathan Taylor at number 2, Saquon Barkley, Dalvin Cook, and then Alvin Kamara at number 5. And my big question here, and I'll go to you first, Foss. Any worry about Barkley coming back from this injury?
I mean, not really. I think I'd take him probably as my second running back still. He's so that offense is going to be good for him to put up that 2,000 yards that we saw total on offense. Honestly, not a doctor. I don't know about the health things. I'll wait till I see people talk about that, but not really. He does everything. He's that full offense. They've gotten a little bit better, so that can be more red zone opportunities. Him at 3, I think, is a value. I said he's probably still my RB2. I'm not too upset about the injury right now.
Okay.
That was early enough in the season.
Yeah, you're right. I haven't heard too much about his injury. I don't know, Ryan, have you heard anything from anybody about his injury? About is he on track to come back and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I haven't really heard any updates on him. I think, as Foss said, it was so early in the season. We can assume he's probably going to be good to go. But he was off to a poor start. I know it's just one game and a game and a half or so that he saw action in 2020, but he was not off to a great start. And then you go back to 2019, dealt with some nagging injuries as well, and had a 5 or 6 week stretch where just was really struggling, honestly, compared to expectations. So I'm not worried yet. He would be my RB3. My rankings would match what we see here as far as the top 3 with Taylor at 2. But I mean, he's got to have a clean 2021, right? Like if he has another injury,
I agree. With
some
that.
kind of even some kind of nagging hamstring or something like that. I mean, his value is, I don't want to say plummet, but he's not going to be a top 3 back anymore, right? We're going to be talking more about, is Saquon still an RB1?
Yeah.
If he has another injury a third year in a row.
Yeah, that's a good call. He'll get that injury.
There's so much talent at the position right now.
Yeah, there really is. Yep. I mean, you saw just, the rookies coming in from last year. There's 5 of them that could potentially be RB1s this year, or maybe even 6 of them. So yeah, I agree. I think Barkley, I think he's still in my top. I think I have him at number 3 actually as well. And I think that I'm not so worried about him now. But yeah, if he has any kind of nagging injury, and you have a year like he had even 2 years ago where he had that stretch where he wasn't very good, I definitely would drop him out of the top 5 at least, because it's becoming a trend now. And unfortunately, that you see that sometimes with the trends in the running backs, when they start getting those injuries, they add up pretty quickly. And guys like Todd Gurley, who went from being all world to being basically off the map. So I agree 100% with that one. Ryan, I'm going to go to you on this one first here. So Alvin Kamara, we kind of saw what he was last year without Drew Brees. He was good. He wasn't great. He was good with Taysom Hill. He didn't get as many red zone looks as he did when he was with Drew Brees. And then, of course, Jameis Winston's never been known as a check-down quarterback either. Are we worried at all about Kamara? Should we be looking to sell Kamara high right now with his top 5 ranking, or are you just okay with Kamara right now?
I think we have to be worried. If we're not a little worried, you're probably lying to yourself. Kamara's played 60 games in his career. 8 of those were without Drew Brees. You look at the splits, and as you can probably guess, they're not pretty. He's scoring basically about 5.5, 6 fewer PPR fantasy points without Brees. The reception numbers are dropping across the board as far as targets, catches, receiving touchdowns, all take a hit with when Brees was not in the lineup. Interestingly enough, his rushing numbers actually go up. He sees more rushing attempts and had more rushing yards when Brees was not in the lineup. But overall, those numbers are taking a hit. He's not an old guy, but he's at that age where he's not going to gain value from here, right? So yeah, with so many options, you talked about the depth of the position. With so many options, I would definitely be trying to pivot from Kamara right now. And we could say the same thing about Dalvin Cook, honestly.
Yeah, that's a good call, and it makes me feel a little bit better because I actually did sell Alvin Kamara. I got 3 first-rounders out of him, so I was happy about that. I got 2 this year and 1 next year because I think the same way you do. I think that he's not as good without Drew Brees, and he's at that point now where we got to start thinking about when's that cliff going to come. So I agree 100%. What are your thoughts, Foss, on this one? Are you still all in on Kamara?
Yeah, this is like conversation just made me nervous. I have a team with both Kamara and Cook on it. They just won it last year. I'm like, I know it's a really good team, but it might be time to pivot off of them. Like, I could even see a trade where I would offer Kamara for like DeAndre Swift.
Yeah.
Or DeAndre Swift and something small, even though he's ranked a little bit lower, the upside's there. Or maybe like a J.K. Dobbins. It might be that point in time for them. And I think this is. Sorry.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Sorry, Foss. Go ahead.
That's okay. I think Dalvin has like 1 or 2 years where he can give elite production, but they're running him into the ground.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been always the healthiest guy.
What are you going to say, Ryan?
We talked about kind of doubting the ADP a little bit when it comes to Watson. This is kind of chalk ADP as far as the running backs go across the industry, really no matter what kind of format you're looking at. But this is another spot where I would not question our data specifically, but I just think this is an example where ADP and trade value do not match up. Because, Foss, the trades you're talking about, Kamara for Akers or Dobbins or Swift, those are the types of deals you're going to have to make, even up, or maybe you get like a second rounder thrown in or something. But those 2 players specifically, Kamara and Dalvin, are not carrying the type of trade value that you might think from a top 5 overall pick.
That's true. Yeah.
No, the trade value doesn't match at all with them.
Yep. You're not getting that top trade value for sure.
Yeah, I think you have him in the question below, so I'm kind of jumping the gun. Derrick Henry's the same way.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
Derrick Henry's getting no respect here. Is he number 6 on this ADP, Ryan?
Oh, I think he's getting too much respect. He's running back 7. He's a first rounder, and he's 27 years old, right? And when you're drafting a dynasty team, even if you've got that short term view, even if you're basically playing a year and a half out, you look at running backs that are age 28. We haven't had a running back in our top 35 overall players who was 28 years old in the past 5 years.
Oh wow, that's a good stat.
Okay, so
his ADP is the first round.
He's 112 right now.
Wow,
12th overall.
So I'm in a startup, right? A super flex startup, and I got him in the 4th.
Oof.
Now,
Middle of the 4th.
I think that's we're talking one QB. So sure, when you throw super flex, you're definitely going to get bumped down a bunch. That's more reasonable. That's more in line with where I would consider him. And honestly, if I'm drafting a new league today, which I'm not going to be doing, I joined way too many last year. But if I'm drafting a new league today, he's basically off my board. I'm not taking him because he's the declining asset. He's going to lose value no matter what he does on the field this year. You look at the age 28 running backs right now. Melvin Gordon is the highest valued running back who's 28 years old, and he's running back 28. Raheem Mostert is, I think he's actually 29, but he's RB 32. Those are the top 2 guys. Go back a year, the highest age 28 running back was Le'Veon Bell. He was RB 26.
Wow.
So I think we can assume, even in one quarterback leagues, that this time next year, Derrick Henry is going to be a late 3rd or a 4th rounder at best.
Wow, that's an awesome stat there that you just spit out there too. I love that. That's a great stat with the age there, because I mean I know people talk about age all the time, but Derrick Henry had one of the best seasons ever last year, and people are just going off of that. Oh, he's just going to do it again. It's just going to happen, and unfortunately, that's not how fantasy works and football works. It just doesn't always work out that way.
Well, and the crazy thing is, even if he matches that, he's still going to lose value. That's just how dynasty is.
Yep.
So yeah, maybe buy low if there is such a thing, because you're right, his trade value does not match that ADP. But I certainly wouldn't draft him in the 1st or 2nd, or probably not even the 3rd round, honestly.
Yep. Good call. All right, let's move to the wide receivers. The top 5 in the wide receivers was Justin Jefferson at the top there, A.J. Brown at number 2, DK Metcalf number 3, Devonta Adams at number 4, and Tyreek Hill at number 5. Ryan, I'm going to go to you on this one. So I've seen a lot of regression talk with Justin Jefferson. Is he still your number 1, and are you worried about a little bit of regression as well in 2021?
I'm not really worried about regression with him. I think, honestly, he could take even a bigger piece of the pie from Adam Thielen. I think the Vikings defense, they've made some changes, but I think their defense still has a long way to go. I think they could still be behind in a lot of games and needing to throw the ball. So really not worried about regression with him. Maybe both he and Justin Herbert, kind of a similar conversation. We're just seeing the best case scenario with those guys, but when they do it as rookies, it's hard to imagine them falling too far, especially when both of those guys were at that elite level. He's actually not my wide receiver 1. AJ Brown is in my personal rankings. But again, this is a tight group at the top, the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I think I may have DK Metcalf still as my number 1, but it's pretty close. Those 3 right there, Jefferson, AJB, and DK Metcalf are right there, pretty close for me. Ryan, what are your thoughts on Jefferson? I know you were a huge person on Jefferson coming in, and you're the reason that I drafted him over Keyshawn Vaughn. Thank you for that. Give me your thoughts on Jefferson.
I love Justin Jefferson. I feel like I'm really weird with my number 1 receiver right now with Devontae Adams. I feel like I'm too old. But Jefferson's a budding star, man. If you told me he's going to be wide receiver 1 for the next 3 years, I wouldn't argue it. And I'll probably end up having him closer to that once we start doing projections and stuff. But I mean, it's in the realm of possibilities. we have a lot of great receivers right now. Like, any of these 5 guys, I don't know how close their ADP is, but I'm assuming they're right there next to each other, like, very close. And
Yeah, they're all 5 of those players, Jefferson, Brown, Metcalf, Adams, and Tyreek, are all in the top 12, all in the first round. And Brown, Metcalf, Adams, Tyreek are all right beside each other, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Wow. So, yeah, they're pretty close.
Is Diggs close to that right now?
Relatively close. Yeah, he's wide receiver 7, middle of the second round, and he's one of those rare cases. I kind of mentioned this with Derrick Henry, and I would say the same thing about some others players that can't gain value, and that's all based on what our historical ADP data has told us, that once these players reach a certain age, no matter what they do on the field, they're going to lose value. And typically we could say that for those 26, 27-year-old wide receivers. And Diggs is breaking the mold here as a 27-year-old. Really almost each month he's creating a new personal high for him as far as ADP. He just keeps gaining value.
Wow, that's awesome. All right, and you mentioned A.J. Brown was your number 1, so this kind of plays right into my next question here, Ryan. With the loss of Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith, does that help or hurt AJB? Do you think they now get the quote unquote double team him, or do you think that just he gets more targets now? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to double team him. I mean, we've all seen that guy, right? We've seen the gem pick, and I mean, he's a beast, of course. So they should be double teaming him no matter what. But when I look at these, when I look at the numbers from last year, he's the only player in the top 18 who saw, or he saw the fewest targets, I should say, of any player in the top 18, according to fantasy production. He had just 106 targets, caught 70 of them. Both of those numbers were low among the top 15 or 18 wide receivers. So, yeah, I mean, he's with Jonnu gone, with Corey Davis gone, he is just going to feast on targets. Of course, they added Josh Reynolds, but I mean, it's pretty thin there. Yeah. If you're counting on Josh Reynolds, you're probably in trouble.
Yeah.
So the Titans have to make a move, even if they bring in one of these first round wide receiver types. Though I still see a major increase in volume for AJB.
Yeah, I think the defenses are looking across the field. They don't see Corey Davis or Jonnu. They see what Adam Ferkser, is that his name, and Josh Reynolds. They're not too worried about that. It's just shut down AGB right now. Ryan, what are your thoughts on AJ Brown and the targets? Are you thinking that he's just going to continue to rise here with more targets?
I think he should rise, but they have to draft somebody.
Yeah,
like, I think we're looking at their situation is incomplete right now. Out of any of the teams, they'd probably be my top 5 who I think need to add a second receiver. And preferably so he can take top off the field, which would fit perfect with him. But as is, I'm a little worried about double and triple teams, but volume can counteract that still. But they have to add somebody. There's no way.
Yeah, I think they do definitely add somebody. And I do think that AJB is still going to be an awesome receiver because, like Ryan mentioned, I was going to say the same thing. Is that he got the least amount of volume for those top guys and was still able to produce. And I think there was even the splits with Jonnu Smith in the lineup and AJB also in the lineup. Jonnu Smith kind of disappeared in those games where I think most of Smith's value came when AJB was not in the lineup for whatever reason, and that seems to be the case when AJB's on the field. It's just Tannehill's looking his way no matter who's covering him. So I definitely love AJB.
And then we had, like, coming into this season, after his rookie season when he looked awesome, everybody said, oh, his efficiency is crazy. He can't repeat that. He's done. It was a fluke. Mm-hmm. Guess what? He did it again.
Yep, exactly.
Two times in a row, I'm not doubting.
Yeah, and two times in a row in his first 2 years at that. It wasn't like it was in the middle of his career. It's
not a fluke.
Yeah, not a fluke. All right, let's do the tight ends next. And there's one name on here that I was a little surprised about. Just I think the hype is getting a bit ridiculous, but I want to get y'all opinion on this one. Top 5 tight ends, according to April DLF ADP, was Kelsey at the top, George Kittle, Waller at number 3, Kyle Pitts at number 4, and then Mark Andrews at 5. And I want to go. I know I got them in order here, but I want to go to that second question first because I kind of teased it a little bit already. But Pitts at number 4, Ryan McDowell, are you buying that at 4? I mean, do you think the hype is too much on this guy? I mean, you're passing up on Hawkinson, you're passing up on Fant, even Goddard can be in that conversation there. Are you buying Pitts at 4?
I probably have more of an issue with his overall ADP, which is 43 overall. So we're talking 4th round of a startup. I have more of a concern with that than I do the tight end 4, because I think, I mean, the way dynasty players are valuing Pitts. You look at the guys ahead of him. Darren Waller's 28 years old. George Kittle's 27 years old and has played one full season in his career. And Travis Kelce is 31 years old. Like, honestly, he doesn't have to do much to be the tight end 1 overall in not even a year or 2 from now, but like 9 months from now.
Yeah.
You know, if we get to the late part of the regular season, middle of the regular season, and he's become the second option for whatever team he lands on, and he's catching a touchdown every other week, he's going to be the tight end 1 overall. And in fact, there's plenty of people who would already rank him as the tight end 1. So the tight end 4 piece, I don't have an issue with. I just have a hard time. And these mock drafts and this ADP data is based on just flat PPR, no premiums. I have a tough time spending a pick that early on a tight end in general. So that's kind of how I see it, which is a little bit of a wishy-washy answer, but we'll update. You know, we wait until the draft actually happens to post our rankings with rookies included among veterans. But if I'm doing rankings right now, honestly, I would have him above Waller, so I would at least have him tight end 3.
Tight end 3.
Maybe even higher, honestly.
Wow. All right. So that maybe I need to go back and look. I mean, I know Pitts, the hype is definitely there. And I think Foss, I think it was you that put something out about all the first round tight ends that have sort of come out and been hyped up and they're.
It was. God, I want to say it was it's either 10 or 15 years. Only no first round tight end has had more than one top 12 finish in PPR.
Wow.
For fantasy.
Not you said none or just one?
No, I said no. None of them had more than one.
Gotcha.
Like almost all of them had at least one, but nobody had more.
Wow. So does that make you worry about Pitts, or are you all in on Pitts?
I'm in on Pitts. I'm not all in. I think landing spot's more important than we think it's going to be. Like, we're all gung ho. Said McDowell earlier. I don't love that for him because he's competing with a lot of targets there. I know they throw the ball 550, 600 times, but you still have CeeDee Lamb, Mark Cooper, Michael Gallup, Zeke spreading the ball around that takes away from touchdowns, volume. I'm not going to buy that there, but he's going to be viewed as that there. He goes to the Chargers, he's moving up. But right now, I have him at 5. But I have Waller at 6. So I have Kittle, Kelce, Andrews, Hawkinson over him. I love Hawkinson, though.
Yeah.
I'm all in on him. Like, I'm probably going to move Hawkinson above Andrews, which pains me as well. But I'm just not there without knowing the situation and fully buying in. He's so good and so talented. We've gotten burned on first-round tight ends really badly. Like, we had the O.J. Howard year with him, David Njoku, and Eric Ebron, who were all transcendent stars and all first-round picks, and they've all let us down. Like, I'm as confident about him as any rookie, but there's still that hesitation.
Yeah. So we have a question on Facebook here. Actually, it's on YouTube from Gerson, Brian. I'm going to go to you, Ryan McDowell. He wants to know Pitts with the Falcons. You think that increases his value if he goes to the Falcons? That's kind of the big rumor right now as well.
Yeah, it seems like Falcons or Bengals are the most likely landing spots at this point, 4 and 5 overall. I think he's fine with either one, especially at Atlanta. Obviously Hayden Hurst being there doesn't bother me at all. Any scout will tell you that Pitts is basically a wide receiver, so I think we could see both of those guys on the field at one time. And we know that's another team that's going to throw the ball a ton. So even with Ridley and Julio being there, I think that would be a really nice spot for Pitts.
Yeah, I agree 100% there as well. I think we saw a couple years ago with Austin Hooper. He had an awesome season, and I think Pitts could be that and more in Atlanta for sure. You kind of mentioned earlier about the ages of some of these tight ends, Ryan. And Kelsey is the oldest of that group. He's still the tight end one here, but I think he's 31. He might even be 32 by the time the season starts, I believe. Is it time to sell Kelsey now to get that value? If you can try to get him at some kind of top value right now, you think he falls off soon?
Man, it's such a tough time right now because I feel like we have kind of these freaks that are challenging everything that we know. Based on age and production. I mean, Kelsey has just done it. I think he's been the tight end 1 4 years in a row. I believe that's correct. Even at age 31, he does not seem to be slowing down. As of 5 months ago, as of late in 2020, according to almost 10 years of DLF ADP, we had never had a 31-year-old tight end in our top 50 overall players. So Greg Olsen was the highest. He had a rank overall of 54 back in early 2017. Now Travis Kelce has had 5 months as a 31-year-old, and all 5 months he's been not only inside the top 50 but inside the top 33. So he's another one, kind of like I said with Stephon Diggs earlier, breaking this trend. All that said, if I can move from him to Hawkinson or to Pitts, I would do that because I think it's the difference between that and the running back position we were talking about earlier. I think you can get a pretty nice additional piece, especially with Hawkinson. Potentially Hawkinson and a first for Kelsey, something like that.
Yeah, I like it. Ryan, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I wish I could make that trade, that Kelsey for those two.
Yeah,
like that'd be beautiful. Yeah, he feels hard to trade because of his age. And I feel like if I tried to trade him, I wouldn't get the appropriate value.
Well, I think he's hard to trade right now. Because this is what we do in the offseason, right? We focus on age. I've mentioned it 10 times here tonight. I would not try to trade him right now.
No.
Now, if you get the Kelsey or the Hawk in a first, then yeah, go for it. But in general, I think you have to wait until the regular season where you're going to maximize your value.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's kind of like with the rookie picks as well. You're maximizing your value in the rookie draft itself. You wait till you're actually on the clock or close to it, and you get the most value for those. The same thing with the players, the veterans. Wait till they're actually playing, and then you get your most value. Love it.
I don't feel like he's a cliff player either. I feel like it's going to be a gradual decline for him just because of the way the position is and that offense is. He could be a safety blanket in this high-powered offense and still have a ton of value.
Kind of like Tony Gonzalez kind of did in his career, where he was just really good for a really long time. Never really kind of fell off until he got too old.
Yeah, I could see him being productive for a while. Maybe not obviously 4 years tight end 1, but he could be a top 8 for multiple years still, easily.
Yeah, I agree, especially with the tight end position because it is always so shallow. I mean, you basically catch a few touchdowns and you can be in the top 12. All right, guys, real quick, let's pay some bills. NFL draft season is upon us, and it's possible you might have Trevor Lawrence's haircut in your pants. That's why our new partners at Manscaped, the leaders of below-the-waist grooming, have teamed up with us to make sure you don't gamble on shaving your balls the same way you gamble on football. For all the Armchair Fantasy fans out there, we have an exclusive 20% offer from Manscaped.com. You get 20% off and free shipping with our promo code Armchair20. Again, that's 20% off and free shipping at Manscaped.com. Use Armchair20. And now a word from our other sponsor.
Experience a new way to play daily fantasy sports and esports on Thrive Fantasy. Thrive's game concept revolves around player props, which are simple over-unders on player stats. There are contests for traditional sports including the NFL, NBA, MLB, PGA, and cricket, as well as esports titles including CSGO, Dota 2, League of Legends, and more coming soon. Here's how to play. Choose your lineup of over-unders for top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Each prop has a fantasy point total based on how likely it is to hit. The more points the selection is worth, the riskier it is. Rack up the most points and win a share of the prize pool. Thrive is awarded over $2 million in cash, so come and prop up today.
All right, welcome back. I'm here with Ryan, and we are about to do some breakout or fake out.
Breakout or fake out.
All right, guys. So before the podcast, I asked y'all to bring a couple of guys here. We'll do breakouts first. Some guys that you were higher on than most. Maybe that's going to be breaking out this year. And Ryan McDowell, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I went pretty deep with my guys here. I don't know who you all were looking at, but the first name was Jacoby Myers. So Myers is wide receiver 97 right now in our ADP. You look back to last season, and I mean, we know that Patriots team was kind of a mess, especially as far as their passing game. But he did lead New England with 81 targets, 59 receptions, over 700 yards. That was just in 14 games. And of course, they've now lost Julian Edelman. They brought in Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar. I think they'll probably draft at least one wide receiver. Also brought in the tight ends, of course. I still think he's the best wide receiver on that team right now. And I'm not scared of any of the additions, at least the wide receiver additions that they've made so far. And he's essentially free.
Yeah, I like that, Colin. I like that you went that deep, because some of our listeners are hardcore dynasty guys, so they want those really deep guys. We don't want the sugar-coated guys that everybody's talking about. So I love that one.
He's the most mainstream name I have. We'll go deeper on the next one.
Good stuff.
I felt terrible about myself.
All right, Foss, who do you got for yours?
I also went Patriots, and I go with Damian Harris. I know he's been up and down for people. That was your boy last year, but he really didn't do bad. He had 10 starts. He had 70 total scrimmage yards in 6 of them. His juke rate, he ranked 8th in the league. His true yards per carry, he ranked 6th in the league. This offense, as is built for running. They're going to be running 12 personnel with those tight ends. And he's their most talented back. He got carries in almost all of his games. Like he had double-digit carries in all but one of his 10 games he played in. He hit 20. He had majority of them around that 15 mark. I'm on board for that. And this is a team that's going to be improving. It's got to be in the playoff hunt because they have improved. They have a good defense. They've improved. And if they're playing the league, you can see him hammering it out. So I'm in on that. And he's cheap.
Yeah, I like that one, especially if Cam Newton is not their week 1 starter. If they do make some kind of quarterback move, whether it's Jimmy Garoppolo, I know it's they're supposedly asking for a first trade, but if he ends up there, because the thing that kind of killed his value last year was Cam Newton getting on the goal line carries. I mean, I was the owner of Damian Harris, and it just pissed me off watching those games where they get down in the red zone, and I'm like, give it to Harris, and it's just Cam Newton over and over again getting those touchdowns. So if he gets those carries in the red zone, I think his value can definitely skyrocket for sure. One of the guys that I had, and unfortunately I accidentally hit the delete button on all my stats that I had in these guys, so I'm going to have to try to wing it here with my memory. But I had Darnell Mooney for Chicago Bears. I think I had a stat that I couldn't find the actual number, but it was something like 15 to 16 deep targets that he had last year that were severely overthrown by his quarterback, that had he caught even half of those, his value would have skyrocketed. I think Andy Dalton, the knocks against him, of course, over the years have been he's sort of a boring quarterback, but I do think he can make those throws. If he hits, a couple of those, I think there was one famously that Darnell Mooney had on Instagram that he basically lost. The name's escaping me now. Who's the cornerback for the LA Rams? The one that got traded?
Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, Jalen Ramsey. Darnell Mooney just left him in the dust. He was 15 yards behind Jalen Ramsey, and he got overthrown by 10 yards by Mitch Trubisky. So I do think if Dalton is the QB there, I think Mooney can increase his efficiency on those deep balls there. I do think he's got a pretty good, decent chance to break out this year. let's go around and do a fake out now, Ryan. We'll go to you first.
Yeah, Foss might want to take a bathroom break or something.
It's okay. I get Ravens hate slang at me every week. It doesn't even make me flinch.
J.K. Dobbins.
Ooh.
He is the running back 9 right now. I love Dobbins. I love him as a player. I think he's going to be a great Raven running back for a long time. I don't know what he's going to bring to fantasy leagues, especially those PPR leagues. My buddy Addison Hayes helped me pull this stat. Over the past 2 years, Baltimore quarterbacks, of course, that's almost totally Lamar Jackson, but we got a little RG3 and a couple other guys in there. But Baltimore quarterbacks have targeted their running backs 101 times over the past 2 years. That ranks last in the league. And 31st place, which is the Titans, is still 18 targets ahead of them.
Wow.
So last by far when it comes to targets going to their running backs. And just for reference, the Chargers lead the league in that number over the past 2 seasons, 338. So we're talking about, nearly 3.5 times what the Ravens are doing. So that's really my main concern. I think he's going to score touchdowns, but Lamar is going to take a few of those too, just like you were saying with Cam Newton.
And Gus Edwards will.
And Gus Edwards will as well. Yeah,
Gus is a thorn on our side. They love him.
Yeah, they should. He's a
a
hard-nosed runner, and yeah.
I don't have JK in my top 12. So, he's just outside, but I don't have him there. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, the chat's going crazy here. They're like, what? Dobbins, a fake out? So yeah, I think I love Dobbins too, but I definitely see your points there. Especially with those target numbers that you're talking about, because that offense isn't going to change. It's not going to suddenly just start throwing to the running back this year. So that's a really good point in PPR leagues. Yeah,
and I would just say, I would say a fake out as far as he's overvalued right now. Like he's certainly still going to be productive. Probably going to be a rock solid RB2 in our lineups, and but to make that next jump and become an elite dynasty asset, that's where I have my doubts.
Yep, I agreed. All right, Ryan, who do you got for your fake out?
Well, while we're doing personal attacks on people's teams, Jeff, I'm coming for you. Brandon Ayuk. This has been. He's had a very crazy ascension. I know he looked good last year, but we saw a lot less Deebo Samuel due to injuries. We saw a lot less George Kittle than we should have. And Brandon Ayuk was not efficient. So contested catches, he caught 33% of them, which ranks 77th in the league. His target separation, which I feel like everybody acts like it's good, was 1.29, which ranked 89th in the league. He had his completed air yards, unrealized air yards, so essentially yards he left on the field, is 439 and 437, which are almost the same. His true catch percentage is 51st in the league, and his yards per route run was 52nd in the league. His fantasy scores was just inflated by touchdowns, which we know isn't something that you can count on, especially when you have George Kittle coming back. I think he's fooling a lot of people right now.
Yeah, that's a good call there. I thought you were on the Ayuk train after a couple shows ago when we talked about Debo versus Ayuk. I thought
whoever it was sold me really hard, and I started looking at him more, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't match up.
It doesn't match up. Fair enough. I actually think I agree with you there.
2 + 2 is 7 right now. I don't get
it. Yeah, I think I agree. I do think that he's being a little overvalued. I think that he was sort of the beneficiary of a lot of injuries. We had major injuries last year. I think we had 4 guys on our team that actually played all 16 games last year, which is a ridiculous number. But yeah, I agree. I think that he was inflated. I think he's a great player. I think he'll be a great NFL player. But where he's being drafted in fantasy leagues right now, I think I'm going to be passing on him myself. So I agree 100%.
And we don't know who the new QB is going to vibe with. Are we going to have a quarterback who's going to have these cheap little dump offs to him?
Yeah.
Or are we going to have somebody slinging it downfield?
Yeah, that's a good
where
call.
Somebody else steps up. We don't know what that offense is going to look like next year because it's not going to be Jimmy G.
Yeah. At least I hope not. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping it's Fields and not Mac Jones either. All right.
I can't wait for that to go live. Man.
It's
It's going to be the best call of the night. I promise you that.
Yeah. So Ryan, we're going live on the draft night. We're going to go all 4 hours of the draft, and of course, my team is the Niners. And I told Ryan if we draft Mac Jones at number 3, I'm ending the podcast right there. There's no more 4-hour marathon. We're done.
You better find a backup option. Because, it feels like it's happening.
Yeah, every day that goes by, I'm like, okay, can I get into this kid? I don't know. I got to go back and watch some more tape. But then I see more tape of Justin Fields today, and I'm like, really? How are we comparing these two? But
he looked so good today.
He really did. So I don't know. I'm hoping that they're just doing some elaborate smokescreen here, and they're going to take Fields after all. All right, so my fake out here, again, I feel bad. Y'all had some great stats, and I had some written down, and I was going through my Evernote, and somehow I deleted my stats here. But I have Kenny Golladay as one of my fake outs, and I think that, if we look at the history of receivers that have changed teams, their first year, they typically struggle. DeAndre Hopkins aside, I think last year the narrative was that Hopkins changed teams. He wouldn't be as good. Obviously, we know that wasn't the case. He was still an amazing player. But overall, I think receivers, they change teams. They take a while to get acclimated. I think Kenny Golladay would be one of those guys that goes to this new team, the Giants team, who isn't a juggernaut offense by any means. And Golladay kind of benefited a little bit from Matt Stafford sort of, peppering him with targets. Even though he was covered, he'd still throw him the ball. I don't know if Jones is that type of quarterback, so I don't think Golladay gets the same amount of targets that he did, in Detroit. So he's one that I think that is still being drafted, higher than I would like him to be drafted. I think he still be a solid player. He'll be a mid wide receiver 2, low end wide receiver 2, but I think he's being drafted closer to wide receiver 1, and I can't buy that value right now. So I'm going to fake out with Kenny Golladay. All right, let's go around and do one more breakout and one more fake out. And Foss, I'm gonna go to you first this time. Give me one of your breakouts.
Ryan mentioned before. That's Josh Reynolds. I think he fills in a specific role for this team, for Tennessee, that they're not really going to fill in the draft. There's not a ton of big body receivers outside of Terrace Marshall, who's going to be instant impact players when we get on the field. And he's 6'3". He has a huge wingspan. He had some games when he was in the Rams where he was heavily targeted and performed. Like, we saw a 94-yard game out of him on his 10-target game where he caught 8 of the balls passed his way. We saw a nice little stretch when he performed. He was just buried behind 2 really good receivers. But he's a nice complementary piece to A.J. Brown. Is he going to be a star? No. But he could be somebody who could gladly be a flex option. Because somebody else is going to be – he's going to be wide open. He's going to be right naked down the end of the field, and he's going to get red zone threats because of his frame. So I think he's somebody who could have surprise value and be somebody you can plug in a pitch.
Yeah, I like that one. I do like Josh Reynolds as well. I do think that where he's being drafted, it is a value right now getting him where you can get him because people kind of overlooked him. I mean, I even had to Google him at one point a couple weeks ago to figure out where he actually landed. I didn't hear a lot about him going to Tennessee. I was kind of like, where did Josh Reynolds land? And I had to go look it up because, yeah, he wasn't very highly sought after, but I do think that he has some value there. Lots of vacated targets with Jonnu Smith, like we mentioned, also leaving as well as Corey Davis. So we assume that they'll draft somebody, but I do think that he'll still get some targets for sure. All right, Ryan, who do you have for your breakout?
Let's see who to go with here. I think I'll go with Harrison Bryant, the Browns' second-year tight end. This is starting to feel a little like an Irv Smith, Kyle Rudolph situation, where it might take 2 or 3 years for Bryant to really overtake and claim this starting job, and we finally we will see Irv Smith do it after 2 years of playing alongside Rudolph the past 2 seasons. Bryant was the top scoring rookie tight end a year ago. And honestly, I'm not worried about Austin Hooper. They gave him way too much money. I'm not sure what the cap number looks like as far as how much they save if they cut him, not this offseason, but a year from now, early next offseason. So this is maybe an early one, maybe more of a 2022 guy, but I like Harrison Bryant to continue to produce and gain some value.
I like that. And yeah, he's not. If you're doing a trivia question and you're talking about the top scoring rookie tight end, I don't think he's on the top of anybody's list unless they're actually looking at those numbers. I mean, there wasn't great tight ends last year, but he wouldn't have been one that I would even thought of. So I like that. Foss, who you got for your breakout?
I did my breakout.
We're doing one more round of breakouts. Oh wait,
we're doing a second breakout or third breakout. I'm sorry.
Oh no, sorry, you're right. I did go to you first. My bad. Give me one of your fake outs.
Okay. I got these two guys are teammates. Their ADOT ratings are 19th in the league and 83rd. Their average target distance is 14th to 102, and their deep targets are 5th to 94th. And one is getting crazy hyped, and that's LaVishka Shenault, and he's the one who's 83rd, 102, and 94. He's another one. Another good rookie from last year who's kind of a trap. He's a really good football player, but his role is too much Cordell Patterson for me to trust. Like, he's so much of that slash player. He's going to have big games here and there, but I see no consistency with it. And we got a young, strong-arm quarterback coming in. He's going to lean a lot more towards throwing deep somebody like DJ Shark, who's a pure receiver, and Marvin Jones in there, who's a pure receiver, than a guy who's kind of just I don't want to say gadget player because it's disrespectful, but kind of like that Swiss Army knife who we're not going to trust.
Oh, wow. That's a good one there. I like that one. And if G-Man J is watching, he's probably upset because I know G-Man J, a friend of ours, is all in on LaVishka Shenault. He even bought a T-shirt for him. So, yeah, I think that's a good call, though, because you have some great points there about him, sort of being gadgety. There's some other good weapons in that offense as well. And with Lawrence going there, he's more of a big-on quarterback looking down the field. All right, Ryan, let's do one last breakout here, and then we'll get to our forgotten fantasy players. So what's one more fake out you got for us?
Yeah, as soon as Foss started quoting stats there, I knew he had stolen my guy. Shenault was my next fake out as well. I would just throw in our dynasty ADP. He's a late 6th rounder right now.
Wow.
So yeah, just too expensive. Just too expensive. I agree with a lot of what Ryan said. And I mean, it would not be a surprise to me if when we get to the end of next year, even with Chark, even with Shenault on that team, it wouldn't be surprising if Marvin Jones is the top fantasy scorer of those 3 wide receivers. I don't think that would be crazy at all. So yeah, I still like Shenault. He's definitely going to be a fun player to watch, but probably a little overvalued. Maybe a not yet situation with him. Foss, since you stole that one, I'll just throw out Noah Fant. Like the player a ton. I don't know if there's a breakout coming because I think he's at best going to be the 3rd target on that team. If they don't fix the quarterback situation, I definitely am not ready to trust him. So it's a tough one because I really love the talent of Fant. Kind of wish he was in a different situation.
Yeah, I agree there 100%. Locke is not really the quarterback you want throwing to your tight end the top tight end that you drafted. And you got Judy and you got Sutton coming back. So, yeah, I agree there. I think he definitely could be overdrafted this year for sure. All right, let's get to the most popular segment of our show.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, Ryan, who do you got for your forgotten fantasy player?
Oh, man, I had to dig deep for this one because I had forgotten this player as well. But I wanted to look back on one of my earliest fantasy teams. I started the hyperactive leagues back in 2006, and lots of great folks in that one. Sigmund Bloom and Matt Waldman played in those leagues. A lot of names you would know. Chad Parsons in some of those leagues as well. But the very first year of the league, I won my conference. I won my 12-team league, and I had to look and see who helped me get there. And I drafted LaDainian Tomlinson first overall, but we definitely haven't forgotten him. He was really the rock of that team, and had some other good players too. But in that title game, one guy who really stepped up, who probably fits this category is Reggie Brown, former Eagles wide receiver.
Nice.
Again, this was 2006, and that ended up being his best year. I think that was his second year in the league. Had over 800 yards that year. He scored 18 fantasy points that week that I needed him.
Nice.
But, looking back, he was a 24-year-old rookie the year before. And, if we fast forward 10, 15 years, we would be bashing that guy so hard. We wouldn't even be considering him. I think he was – I'm really testing my memory here. I think he was a second-round pick by the Eagles. And was a pretty popular late first, early second round dynasty rookie draft pick. And yeah, I mean, if he's 24 entering the league right now, we're just hating him. We're not giving him any praise at all.
Nice. I love that one. I love the ones that people pull out that they had that one game that they remember, the championship game when they put up those big games. Those are always fun. And Reggie Brown definitely is bringing it back there. 2006 is going back a ways. I like that one. That's one of our best ones in recent memory. I like it. All right. That wraps up the show. Let's go around Robin real quick. Give us your Twitter handle one more time where we can find you at. And if you work on anything you want to plug, Ryan, we'll go to you first.
Sure. You can find me on Twitter at RyanMC23. Find all of my work at dynastyleaguefootball.com. And I mentioned the podcast earlier, so I won't repeat those. We have recently released a Dynasty Draft Guide. It's got some startup information. It's got rookie information. We've really a ton of stuff. It's over 130 pages. It comes free with a subscription to DLF. So if you're a subscriber, check that out. If you're not, become a subscriber and then check that out.
All right, good stuff. Foss, what you got?
Find me on Twitter at Foss534. Find me here every Wednesday night. Make sure to tune in the draft show. It's going to be a lot of fun. Jeff's going to cry. Find me at the Sports Illustrated Draft Bible. We do our podcasts on Tuesday night, drop Wednesday mornings normally. But, yeah, that's really about it.
All right, good stuff. As always, guys, you can find me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. I was going to plug the 4-hour marathon draft show as well. We will actually be giving out on social media the share link or the join link for our podcast, so you can jump on. Anyone can come on. Want to come on 10, 15 minutes, rant about your team making a pick or, predict your pick or whatever you want to do. We're letting anybody and everybody on for those 4 hours. So keep an eye out on my Twitter account. I'll share the join link that day so everybody can kind of come on and hang out with us for a little bit. For Ryan, for Foss, I'm Jeff. We will see y'all next week.